Welcome back. One of the reasons we study our past is to learn lessons for our own lives. In the same way, the wisdom passed on from father to son can help shape what sort of adult you will ultimately be. And though I'm often trying to make you laugh, I hope these stories I tell you give you something to think about. Today, let's revisit a prosperous and troubling time in American history, the Old West. In the late 1800s, America spread rapidly from the cities on the East Coast out west. And as with every story, there are both good things and bad things that happened during that era. Both are valuable lessons to learn, particularly today, when we seem to live in a society with declining morality. Morality is a guiding principle in life that helps us determine what is right and what is wrong. It drives our decision-making process and influences our behavior, value, beliefs, and attitudes. Morality has changed over time throughout history as civilizations have advanced and grown, or declined. Some societies hold a strong sense of communal morality that is based around shared beliefs and customs, while today many more people are driven by individual moral values. Ultimately, it is up to us to develop our own sense of right and wrong based on the lessons we learn throughout our lives. Of course, when times are good, we get fat and comfortable. Our sense of morality might not be tested as often, or to the same degree, as in times when things are bad. When a society operates without a moral compass, lawlessness can ensue, leading to brutal consequences. We saw this in the Old West, and we see it today. Without clear guidelines for what is right and wrong, social norms break down, and chaos can become the norm. People can take advantage of society's weaknesses. Criminality rises, and people become fearful for their safety. Moreover, without a shared sense of morality, people may not feel a sense of responsibility to their community or to their fellow citizens. Instead, they may prioritize their own interests and disregard the needs and well-being of others. This can lead to a breakdown in social cohesion, undermining the fabric of society. Furthermore, lawlessness can create a breeding ground for corruption and exploitation. Those with power or influence may take advantage of the lack of rules and regulations to pursue their own agendas, often to the detriment of others. In short, a society without a shared sense of morality can lead to insecurity, selfishness, and corruption. The era of the Old West is an example of this problem, which led to gang violence, vigilantism, and brutality towards those stuck in between. However, instead of societal decay, like we're seeing today, the problems in the second half of the 1800s came from America's rapid expansion west. People were willing to move west to start a new life, but since they moved away from the established societies in the East Coast cities, they discovered that the freedom that they sought came with a price. For all the problems with living in East Coast cities, they did provide societal norms, and more importantly, the ability to enforce them through laws and law enforcement. Heading out west, you lose those. For some, it was a great risk. For others, it was an opportunity. One of the most important innovations that sped up the Westward Expansion came in the years 1863 through 1869, the development of the Transcontinental Railroad. The Transcontinental Railroad had a tremendous effect on Western America. It made it far easier to travel across the country and facilitated the migration of people from the East Coast deeper into the center and western portions of the country. Before the Transcontinental Railroad, people had to travel across the U.S. in far more inconvenient ways. People either took a boat or rode on horse-drawn wagons to go from the East Coast to the West Coast. With the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, a journey could be made to destinations on the West Coast in a matter of days. As the West started to populate at an ever-increasing rate, tiny towns started to pop up wherever people saw fit. However, the services of an established, populated city, specifically law enforcement, would not be established until the town was big enough to create their own system. This, among other factors, led to the rise of criminal gangs and outlaws like Jesse James, Billy the Kid, and Butch Cassidy. After the Civil War, many men who fought in the Confederate Army found themselves without jobs or a purpose. Some turned to a life of crime as a way to survive, preying on the weak and vulnerable. Furthermore, in some areas of the West, law enforcement was sparse or non-existent, allowing outlaws to escape punishment for their crimes. They often lived outside the traditional society's laws, forming their own gangs and hiding out in remote areas. In any case, the phenomenon of outlaws is a reflection of the social and historical context in which they lived. It serves as a reminder of the importance of law and order in maintaining a stable and functioning society. One of the more lawless areas criminals operated in was the American Southwest. Despite its challenges, the desert offers breathtakingly beautiful and awe-inspiring landscapes that draws visitors in from around the world. One town in this region was San Miguel, located just across the border in modern-day Mexico. A dusty speck of civilization, if you could call it that, in the middle of the desert. Historically, things have not gone well for the few residents of San Miguel, and unfortunately, things are about to get a lot worse. It really comes down to one man, a stranger, a nameless traveler who becomes the last hope to save that town from the lawlessness and gang violence that has crippled it for so long. The man's name was, well, we don't really know. He went by so many names, and sometimes none at all. He was the man with no name. This is part 1 of his story as part of Sergio Leone's Man with No Name Trilogy. Today, let's talk about Fistful of Dollars.
Get 3 coffins ready. My mistake, 4 coffins.
1883. He was a mysterious drifter who arrived in the town of San Miguel, Mexico. Joe, as he would later be called, had a no-nonsense attitude and refused to be intimidated by anyone, as the first group of thugs quickly learned, the hard way. His chosen weapon was the Colt Peacemaker, which he used to great effect when confronting his enemies. Joe possessed incredible shooting skills, making him a formidable opponent even against multiple adversaries. His skill with firearms, combined with his cool demeanor, made him an intimidating figure in the town of San Miguel as he pursued justice for those wronged by its corrupt leaders. Joe's mysterious and imposing presence in San Miguel soon attracted the attention of local criminal organizations who enlisted him as their hired gun. He played it cool while making a plan to fight for justice using his own brand of brutal retribution, all while protecting the innocent citizens of San Miguel from further harm. San Miguel was a lawless place, controlled by 2 gangs vying for power and influence, the Rojos and the Baxters. He discovered that both gangs were extorting protection money from the local people and decided to take advantage of this situation by playing one gang against the other. One of the gangs, the Rojos, was led by Ramon Rojo, fantastically played by Gian Maria Volente. Ramon had unmatched skill with the rifle. His signature shot was to shoot his enemies in the heart. Throughout the story, it was demonstrated that those who crossed Ramon would end up with a bullet or bullets in their hearts. Due to his power, influence, and brutality, Ramon became the antagonist of this story. But through a series of clever deceptions, Joe was able to befriend both gangs and profited greatly from his subterfuge. But eventually Joe's luck ran out, and part of his plot was discovered. He was captured and tortured, but still refused to divulge any information about the remainder of his plan. Joe always seemed to stay one step ahead of everybody. He was even able to manipulate Ramon into eliminating the rival gang in town, the Baxters, leaving just the Rojos to contend with. After escaping his captors, and with the assistance of some of the townsfolk, Joe was able to recover and develop the final part of his plan. In one of the quintessential showdown scenes in cinema history, Joe emerged from a cloud of dust to face off the remaining members of Rojo's gang. Ramon got the jump on Joe and shot him in the heart, or so he thought, and there on that dusty street of San Miguel, Joe collapsed, dead. Or not quite dead. Much to Ramon's shock, Joe rose from the ground, still alive. Ramon shot Joe in the heart again. Joe stood up again. Ramon kept shooting Joe in the heart, but he kept coming, taunting Ramon. Eventually, with his ammo depleted, save for one last round, Joe revealed his deception. He was wearing armor fashioned out of a thick piece of metal that covered his heart. Joel drew his Colt Peacemaker, which was truly living up to its name, and eliminated the remaining Rojos, including Ramon. The Man with No Name saved San Miguel. Both gangs were eliminated, and Joe, as he was called, the enigmatic gunslinger, rode off to his next adventure in the lawlessness of the frontier. Fistful of Dollars is one of the most memorable movies ever created in the Western genre. And although the movie has since become a cult classic, its impact on the Western genre was undeniable during its time. And its setting within a historical context added an extra level of realism to the story. The backdrop of San Miguel also adds further authenticity to the movie's narrative. Located along the Mexican border, it would have been a key destination for traders and travelers alike during that era, providing plenty of opportunities for Joe to engage with gangs of criminals. Almost every scene in Fistful of Dollars feels like it could have been popped out of a history book. As a result, audiences were fully immersed in the depiction of the era, making it feel more like a documentary than a work of fiction. This makes this movie essential viewing for anyone looking to explore the genre further or simply get lost in a compelling tale from another era. The Man with No Name's gritty character has become an icon in film history, and his role in the movie serves as a reminder of life during a tumultuous period when Mexico and America were contending for their places in history. Fistful of Dollars, released in 1964, is a classic spaghetti western directed by Sergio Leone. As the film progresses, it delves into the themes of loyalty, morality, economic disparity, and justice, while emphasizing the documentary-like realism that characterized Leone's style of filmmaking. Through these elements, Fistful of Dollars portrays a vivid and captivating insight into the past and its implications on modern-day society, despite being set many decades ago. This movie provides us with powerful lessons about history that can be applied to current times. By presenting the audience with alternative perspectives and challenging conventions, this movie stands as a testament to Leone's creative genius and his lasting legacy within cinema. It is easy to see why this iconic film has remained so beloved throughout the years. And while most people would describe this as a spaghetti western, which means an Italian-made western, when this movie was made, there had already been about 25 such westerns produced in Italy. This was, however, the first to receive a major international and American release, which is why some of the cast and crew members were credited with American-sounding names. Sergio Leone was now known as Bob Robertson. Actor Gian Maria Valenti was credited as Johnny Wells. Cinematographer Massimo Dalliamo would be called Jack Dalmas, and legendary composer Ennio Morricone would be credited as Dan Savio. But much to my own surprise, Fistful of Dollars was not filmed in Italy. Producer Alberto Grimaldi realized that shooting a western in Spain was absolutely a no-brainer, as it was 25% cheaper than filming in Italy. So the movie was eventually filmed in Almeria, Spain, a place known as the Wild West of Europe due to its similarity to the American Southwest. And of course, with all these old movies, getting an actor for the lead role was also a challenge. Clint Eastwood, who was up for the job, had a contract with the TV show Rawhide, which prohibited him from making movies in the US while on any kind of break from the series. However, his contract didn't say anything about making movies outside of the United States, namely Europe. And having played a do-good hero in Rawhide for several years, Clint Eastwood jumped at the opportunity to play this anti-hero. So, Fistful of Dollars was filmed while Rawhide was still on TV, specifically between seasons 6 and 7. The Italian crew warmed to Clint Eastwood very quickly and joked that he only had two expressions, with hat or without hat. It took 3 months to finish shooting the film, with more than 60 takes per scene being used on average. And being a spaghetti western, the musical score was written before the movie was filmed, so Leone went into filming with the music in hand. He was so enraptured with Ennio Morricone's score that he would frequently let scenes run longer than they should just so the music could play out fully, which explains why the visuals and the music match up so wonderfully in his movies. There were some problems from the other side of the ocean too. After watching Akira Kurosawa's samurai classic Yojimbo, Sergio Leone decided to use many similar themes and ideas within Fistful of Dollars, so much so that they ended up in court. A lot of people consider Fistful of Dollars to be a remake of 1961's Yojimbo. In fact, this movie's US release was delayed when Yojimbo screenwriters Akira Kurosawa and Ryozo Kikushima sued the filmmakers for breach of copyright. Ultimately, Kurosawa and Kikushima won, and as a result, received 15% of the movie's worldwide gross and exclusive distribution rights for Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea. When Kurosawa released the film in Japan, he pointedly retitled it The Return of Yojimbo. Kurosawa said he made more money off of Fistful of Dollars than he did off of Yojimbo. The film was a runaway success upon its release, grossing over $14 million worldwide and becoming the highest-grossing Western ever released at that time. Originally called The Magnificent Stranger, the title wasn't changed to A Fistful of Dollars until almost 3 days before the movie premiered in theaters. In fact, nobody had bothered to inform Clint Eastwood of the change, and as a result, Eastwood remained virtually unaware of the positive buzz surrounding his movie until an agent pointed it out to him in a Variety magazine article 3 weeks later. And though it had commercial success, Fistful of Dollars did not fare well with the critics, of course. When it was released in Leone's home country of Italy, it was universally shunned by film critics and received extremely negative reviews. I would read some of them to you, but they're all in Italian. Despite the harsh reception from critics, it was a hit with audiences, and soon grossed more than any other Italian movie before it. And while it's hailed as a classic in American cinema, the film initially received negative reviews from critics when released in the United States. Philip French of The Observer derided the film as laughable and went on to add that A Fistful of Dollars looks awful, has a flat dead soundtrack, and is totally devoid of human feeling. Likewise, Bosley Crowther of the New York Times called it a clinched campy parody and lambasted Eastwood's performance by stating, "He is a morbid, amusing, campy fraud." Honestly, what qualifications do you need to be a professional movie reviewer? In the end, we now know that Fistful of Dollars is a timeless classic that has had a profound impact on modern society. The film's themes of justice, revenge, and redemption are still relevant today and continue to resonate with audiences around the world. Its iconic style and innovative cinematography have also influenced generations of filmmakers, inspiring them to push boundaries and create new possibilities within the medium. One of the most significant impacts of Fistful of Dollars on modern society has been its role in shaping the Western genre. Fistful of Dollars introduced or popularized new elements into the Western genre, such as anti-heroes, Mexican standoffs, and new ways of depicting violence, which would go on to become staples of the genre. The film's successes also paved the way for a wave of other spaghetti westerns, many of which remain beloved by audiences today. Fistful of Dollars also had a significant impact on the career of its star, Clint Eastwood. Prior to the movie's release, Eastwood was primarily known for his roles on television, specifically Rawhide. However, his portrayal of the man with no name catapulted him into international stardom and cemented his legacy as one of the great action heroes of all time. Eastwood's career continued to flourish after the film's release, with iconic roles like Dirty Harry and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. His contributions to the film industry have been immeasurable, and his influence can still be seen in the work of many contemporary filmmakers. The man with no name has become an iconic character in his own right, with his stoic demeanor, trademark poncho, and fearless attitude, inspiring countless imitators and parodies over the years. The theme of morality and the impact of lawlessness is one that is still relevant in modern society, and it is a theme that is clearly evident in Fistful of Dollars. The film depicts a world in which justice is in short supply and where lawlessness is the norm. This is a world in which the strong prey upon the weak and where violence and revenge are the only ways to solve disputes. Unfortunately, this theme still resonates with many people today based on what we're seeing in our own society. And while we may live in a slightly more civilized society than the one depicted in the film, the fact remains that there are still many areas in which justice is elusive and where lawlessness prevails. The theme of morality is evident in Fistful of Dollars, particularly with the character of the man with no name. Although he's a hardened killer and a master of violence, he is also a man with a strong sense of right and wrong. He uses his skills to protect the innocent and to bring justice to those who've been wronged. At his heart, Joe's story in Fistful of Dollars is one of survival and redemption as he battled against injustice and corruption in order to protect those people in the town of San Miguel. It is also a testament to the power of resilience and courage in the face of adversity. In spite of all the danger that surrounded him on a daily basis, Joe never wavered in his commitment to justice. He is a hero to the forgotten and downtrodden, proving that no matter how dark and overwhelming life can seem, there is always hope. Joe's story encapsulates the spirit of survival that has come to define the American Southwest. But even in these dire circumstances, individuals like Joe find strength within themselves and persevere against all odds. In his own way, he brings light into the darkness, providing hope for those struggling against adversity. He reminds us all that even in life's toughest moments, those with moral determination can prevail. Thank you for watching.